It's so great hearing this insight of what goes into being a Force Recon Marine, because actually Chris could tell you, and I'm racking my brain here. I mean, we've had so many Navy SEALs on, from Brandon Webb to Chris Beck to Quinn Emerson, plenty of fellow Rangers. I don't even know if we haven't
had a Force guy.
Yeah, I was just saying, Rudy Reyes was MARSOC, right, but not Force Recon.
He was Recon Battalion, and then I think he went.
So just Rudy, as far as I could remember, then, right?
Well, it was, go a little bit, because there's a difference. Force is different than Battalion Recon. There's two, and that's the one thing that I always found, that I started to find out with Marines, just like Marines found out with Rangers. Like Kirk is respectful enough to say, hey, just because you got your tab doesn't mean that you're a Ranger. He understands, but I had to learn that on that side too. It's like, just because you say you're Recon doesn't mean that you were Force Recon. And I learned that as a youngster, because I would say, this guy's Recon, I know him. And the guy would ask, is he Force or is he Battalion? What the hell's the difference? Well,
so Rudy is not Force?
I would have to ask him. I know that.
I think Rudy was Battalion. Not take anything away from Rudy. Rudy's infantry.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the cool thing, is that we have people on from so many different backgrounds, but Army Rangers, and I think it's also just, there's a lot more Army Ranger guys who do media, who put out books. A lot of Navy SEALs. Yeah. I know the joke is that Navy SEALs all write a book, but there's plenty of Army Rangers as well putting out books.
That's not the truth anymore. It was in the past.
Yeah.
But no, we've caught up to.
Yeah, and the Marines, there's just not quite as many. But you know what? I hope we're not fast forwarding ahead too much. But I think people would probably love to hear. So, what was your first time then in combat, following all this?
Hey, Ian, can I do?
Yeah.
Before we get that,
do you want to do?
Can you? Would you mind giving me tell everybody the difference between Force and and Force Recon and Battalion Recon, just so people don't make the same mistake I did in a bar and piss a Marine. Dude, I didn't know, man. I mean, we can fight if you want, but I had no idea what tell the difference between Battalion and Force Recon.
A lot of the training is very similar. It's the missions that you're assigned. Force Recon is supposed to be a very deep reconnaissance asset. In a near peer environment, they would be going without support into deep behind enemy lines, if you will, more or less being, I don't know what else to call it, terrorists, insurgents, blowing up bridges, taking out power stations, just causing all kinds of problems behind enemy lines. And you can go back to World War II and look at how the OSS and the Marine Raiders, which was the forerunner of Recon, which was the forerunner of Raiders, which is another episode, I think, for you. But it draws away a lot of enemy forces to go and try to find those insurgents. So that's kind of what Force Recon does. They were tasked with hostage rescue, and again, not trying to, Delta, that's the top of the food chain for hostage rescue. Dev Group, these are the people you want doing it, because they have they do it every day. They have the assets, et cetera. But what they found was Dev Group and we called it CAG, I think, back in those days. Delta.
It's still called it's CAG.
Okay, I think it's ACE.
The Delta guys get mad when you say Delta.
Okay,
as if we don't know what they're talking about.
It's like
it's cool action guy. You used to call them combat applicator.
Okay,
it's just Delta, whatever the unit.
The unit,
the unit guys.
Green, whatever. Okay, we've named everyone.
Right.
If they get mad at us, I said every moniker out there that I know. Yeah. We're good. We're covered.
But they theoretically they would want 24 hours of planning and preparation to make sure they could make the mission happen, and that's the right answer. Well, and it's a long story, but basically Force Recon is already there on the ship. So they're probably in theater already, and so you can take a direct, we call it direct action platoon, and you could respond within 8 hours. So instead of the 24-hour window, now you have the commanders that can have an option that's has an 8-hour window. So that was kind of that was one of the big selling points of Force Recon. Admiral McRaven, I don't know if he was in charge of it or not. I didn't read his book, but I remember he talked about it specifically. when the oil rigs were taken down, the Iranian oil rigs were taken down in '89. It was all Force Recon. Now they were backed up by I think a SEAL boat team because there just weren't enough Force Recon guys, and I think the SEALs kind of took credit for like if you ask someone today from back, hey, who took down the oil rigs? Oh, that was the SEALs. That was the SEAL. And it was actually Force Recon that did that. And then fast forward to things like Scott O'Grady being shot down over Bosnia. There was a lot of talk about using Force Recon, and then initially they were like, well, we're going to use a mortar platoon because if they need firepower, the mortar platoon has it. So they just sent in a conventional mortar platoon to get Scott O'Grady. And then in Libya, years later, they were like, no, we need something now, and we need the best we can get. So they took Ospreys and flew Force Recon in to get the F-15 guys that got shot down in Libya. So
so the battalion guys, though, did they not do that sort of stuff?
They don't. They don't do direct action. They don't do. Now they're still recon Marines. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah,
They're out there doing cool stuff. I think the show that Rudy did,
Generation Kill.
Yeah. Thank you. I think that was pretty accurate. You're providing reconnaissance to the ground force commander on the Marine side.
Gotcha.
Whereas the Force Recon, you may be providing eyes on the battlefield for cabinet level shit. You know what I mean? And it's always timing, man. It's not like, again, I'm not going to say one organization is better than the other. The operation, and I'm not throwing stones at anybody. Red Wings with Marcus Luttrell. Yeah. That's a traditional recon mission, for example. That's if that answers your question. I'm not.
No,
sure.
it does, and it makes it, and it makes sense for those out there. It's just like RRD. RRD used to be for range battalion. Now it's a SOCOM. So Mars. That's why it's gone from Force Recon is. In my opinion, I'm not a Marine, but that's MARSOC because you are now a SOCOM element. You're just you're the element for everybody. Yeah. For that's what the cross pollination. Where battalion recon, you're an element for the Marine Corps.
And I appreciate Chris asking that question. I mean, thank you.